Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. We are jumping straight into a massive tech revelation today, one that's literally sending shockwaves through the military-industrial complex and the everyday developer community alike. I'm super excited to guide you through this because it's the perfect example of how highly classified, exclusive technology eventually, trickles down to the rest of us. We're talking secrecy, billion-dollar contracts, and a massive plot twist no one saw coming. Let's get right into it.
So here's the question we really need to answer today. What actually happens when the Pentagon's most secretive $30 billion AI tool gets cloned, rebuilt entirely from the ground up, and then just given away for free on GitHub? I mean, it sounds like the plot of a sci-fi thriller, right? But as crazy as it sounds, it just happened. We're watching this incredible democratization of tech happen in real time. But to really grasp why this is such a game changer, we first got to look at the giant that got cloned.
Which brings us to Section 1. The $30 billion secret, Palantir's rise.
All right, so to really understand this, we have to talk about Palantir. They don't do flashy product launches, and you're not going to see them running Super Bowl ads. But over the last 2 decades, they've quietly become the ultimate digital backbone for global governments, law enforcement, and Fortune 500 companies. Just look at this number, $10 billion. That is the value of a recent contract Palantir signed with the U.S. Army. Over the next decade, this one contract gives them access to literally every single Army database currently in operation. We're not just talking about a successful Silicon Valley startup here. This software is deeply embedded infrastructure at a scale that's, well, kind of hard to even wrap your head around.
If you trace Palantir's timeline, it basically tells you everything you need to know about its pedigree. They were founded back in 2003 and originally backed by In-Q-Tel. Now, if you don't know, that is literally the venture capital arm of the CIA. In fact, for its first 3 years, the CIA was Palantir's only customer. Fast forward to 2024, and they're pulling in almost $3 billion a year. Their stock is up over 500%, and they locked in that historic $10 billion Army contract we just mentioned. It is the absolute definition of exclusive, highly classified tech.
Moving on to Section 2. The open source plot twist, a free alternative.
So, after 2 decades of building this totally impenetrable wall of government contracts and security clearances, a developer just walks right up and opens the door. Somebody actually built an open-source clone of Palantir Foundry. Now, Foundry is the commercial version of the platform used by massive corporations, and they just tossed this clone up on GitHub. The contrast here is staggering. Palantir does not publicly list its pricing. And, as you probably know, enterprise software that hides its pricing usually does so because it costs millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars a year. It's built strictly for the few who can afford it. But this new, fully self-hosted clone, you don't need a massive budget, you don't need a subscription, and you definitely don't need to get on a sales call. You literally just download it. Cost? Exactly zero.
And look, this isn't just some clunky, cheap knockoff either. It's incredibly sophisticated. Under the hood, the developer built this thing using Rust and Svelte. If you're a software person, you already know these are 2 amazingly modern technologies known for making applications incredibly fast and super efficient. By using Rust for the heavy lifting on the back end and Svelte for a snappy interface, this platform handles massive data loads smoothly. Plus, it's fully self-hosted, meaning you can run the whole shebang entirely on your own local machine or private server.
All right, Section 3. The ultimate data librarian, making sense of chaos.
Here's the thing. Whether you're the Pentagon or just a local coffee shop, you face the exact same fundamental problem. Data is coming at you from everywhere. Spreadsheets, financial transactions, maybe satellite images if you're the military, all stored in totally different formats that just refuse to talk to each other. How this software fixes that chaos is through a concept called an ontology. Basically, instead of treating data like boring rows and columns in a spreadsheet, an ontology creates a highly structured map. It actually connects digital information to real-world things, people, places, events, and maps the relationships between them. All of a sudden, your data behaves like the real world it's actually supposed to represent.
To make this a bit more concrete, imagine a giant library. But instead of nicely organized shelves, imagine thousands of books just dumped in a massive pile on the floor. And they're all written in completely different languages. Honestly, that's what most business data looks like today. This software, it acts as the ultimate master librarian. It doesn't just shove the books onto a shelf. It reads them, translates them, and dynamically connects them by author, history, and topic so you can find exactly what you need instantly. It unifies the mess so humans and AI can finally work together with it.
Which leads us to Section 4. Solving small business silos, real-world application.
While predicting global military events is, fascinating, this tech is incredibly practical for everyday problems.
If you run a small business, I guarantee this scenario is painfully familiar. Step 1. Your customer data is locked up in one system. Step 2. Your sales data is trapped in another. Step 3. Inventory is being tracked somewhere else entirely. And Step 4. Your finance team is still stubbornly using disconnected spreadsheets. These are data silos. They're totally disconnected, incredibly frustrating, and they basically blind you to what's really happening in your own business.
Because of those silos, you can't answer a seemingly basic question like, which customers are most likely to buy again? The data to answer that exists, but because it's scattered to the wind, no one can give you a straight answer. Well, this open source clone was built to solve exactly that. By pulling your spreadsheets, databases, and APIs into one unified ontology, it shatters those silos. It literally gives a small business owner the exact same level of organizational clarity that a Fortune 500 company drops millions of dollars for.
Now for Section 5. Pentagon power versus private developers, the paradigm shift.
Now let's be real for a second. The Pentagon isn't suddenly going to switch their operations to a free GitHub download. Palantir has decades of highly classified, custom integrations. But that really isn't the point. The point is the massive paradigm shift in access. Let's compare. The original government use case, Palantir was used by the military in Afghanistan to feed in historical data like roads, times, and patterns to actually predict where roadside bombs might be planted. It literally saved lives. Highly classified, life-or-death architecture. Contrast that with a private developer today. They can now look at the code under the hood of that exact same architectural concept. They can run it locally, tear it apart, and learn from one of the most advanced data platforms ever created. That is wild.
And that brings us to Section 6, a new era of access, the power of open source.
We're seeing this recurring pattern in the tech and AI space right now. Something mind-blowingly powerful gets built behind closed doors. It stays locked away, incredibly expensive, and totally exclusive. And then, inevitably, someone cracks it open, rebuilds the core idea, and just hands it to the world. So, who benefits from this one? Well, it's a wildly diverse group. Small businesses can finally link up their sales and inventory. Researchers can cross-reference health records, geography, and social patterns to find hidden correlations they'd never spot otherwise. Nonprofits and journalists can track incredibly complex data trails, and everyday developers can push the boundaries of top-tier data architecture right from their laptops.
It really all boils down to this quote. A capability that was reserved for the powerful few becomes available to everyone. It's not just a neat software update, guys. It's a fundamental shift in who gets to play the game. Palantir spent 20 years digging a multi-billion-dollar moat, and open-source developers just strolled up and built a bridge right over it.
Which leaves us with this final thought. The exact core architecture that powers global intelligence networks and massive corporate empires is now sitting on GitHub, completely free, waiting for you to download it. The barriers to entry are just gone. The silos can finally be broken. So, now that a $30 billion door has been kicked wide open, what will you build? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep building, and I'll see you next time.